is for the paper?
This is for the paper. It is Maple River Messenger. So you spoke in Mapleton recently at a church, and one of our staff heard you, and they were so moved by it that they wanted to do an interview and find out more. So tell me about the nonprofit. Say your full name, how you want it printed, so we can have that right.
We are Vine, Faith in Action, and I have a little history for you that I've developed. But Vine started back in 1995, so we're almost 30 years old. And it was begun by really a neighborhood group as a graduate school project by the founder, Pam Detterman. And then it grew and it grew and it grew, but it was basically started as a neighbor helping neighbor project. And today we have this 5-story building, and it has become quite it's an adult community center, this building is. But our services extend way beyond the building. So, for example, the reason I came to Mapleton is because we started a caregiver support group. When I began in Vine, which was in 2016, we started a caregiver support group out in Amboy. And then we moved from Amboy to Mapleton after about 2 years, just because we thought that Mapleton would be a little more centrally located for caregivers from the entire rural area. So I wanted to let people know in Mapleton that our caregiver support group meets monthly on the first Tuesday of every month from 2:30 to 4. And we use the space at St. Teresa's, which we're very grateful to be able to have. And we've had, I'd say, up to 8 to 10 caregivers attend that meeting. And this past year, we've had 5 deaths of people that the caregivers have been caring for. Now, they're not all from Mapleton. You know, we have caregivers come from Amboy, Lake Crystal, Wells, Minnesota Lake, so Good Thunder. And so it's not surprising, because caregiving, that's what it's about, is helping people in their life, but also helping them in their death. So we're trying to grow that group, and we don't need any specific number to have the group. I mean, if there are 2 people, we'll have the group. So that's one of the reasons I went out on that Sunday morning and visited 2 churches in Mapleton and 1 in Vernon Center, and had a number of people come up to me afterward just to ask more about the group. So our next group is September, the first Tuesday, and I'll be there as the facilitator. We have 3 of us here at Vine who regularly facilitate groups. And we are trained facilitators, and we have other support groups here at the building on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of the month, and we're just going to start a new group in Le Sueur. And then we have an evening group too at 5:15 for caregivers who may be also working and trying to balance their job with caregiving, and that's on the 3rd Wednesday. And that's here too. So those are the groups. And then I also talked about True Transit when I was there, because True Transit is our transportation service in rural communities in Nicollet, Blue Earth, and Le Sueur counties. And it's kind of a best kept secret, but I was happy to see when I asked folks at the church, how many of you know of True Transit? There were a few hands that went up. And I had a lot of brochures that I offered to people and just said, call when you need a ride, because we're here for you. We can bring you from any of the rural areas in those 3 counties to Mankato. And we don't provide rides within town, but we can take you to your destination and bring you back home. It's a bus and paid drivers.
And it doesn't cost the person anything to ride?
It's $5 a ride. I know. $5 one way, I should say.
Gotcha.
And so that's all in the brochures. And there's a number to call. So yeah, those are the 2 things I wanted to focus on.
So on the True Transit, does that include transportation to a church? on a Sunday morning?
No,
Okay.
it's Monday to Friday.
Okay, Monday to Friday, and it's basically medical things, or
It's medical things, it's groceries.
okay,
It might be coming to town to visit somebody
Okay.
who's in the hospital or at the nursing home or at
Gotcha.
one of the facilities in town. Yeah, it's for anything.
Now I assume that you said it's Monday through Friday, but is it like I couldn't call up today in 10 minutes and get a ride from
No,
Good Thunder?
we need at least a business day's notice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it pretty for sure that there's going to be a ride available?
I'd say it's pretty for sure.
Okay.
For True Transit.
Wow.
Now for our door-to-door rides, which is just, it wouldn't be to the rural areas, those we require 3 business days.
Okay.
notice. But
Okay.
for True Transit, it's a day.
Okay. So let's go back to the caregiver
Yeah.
support group for a minute.
Yeah.
So who's your client? What does it look like?
Yep.
And what kind of support do you all provide?
Yeah. Well, caregivers, first of all, there's over 53 million Americans who are providing care.
Wow.
And that was a statistic back in, I think, 2022. So I'm sure it's up from 53 million. And most of these caregivers are caring for a spouse or a family member. But it could be a neighbor. You know, it might be somebody that you have an agreement with that every morning they're going to raise their shade and let you know they're okay. And you're looking at that every day and thinking, okay, she's okay today. You're a caregiver because you're tending to the needs of someone who can't rely on themselves anymore for all their cares. Our groups are, like I said, primarily spouses, men and women. But so when they come to the group, they're looking to give support as well as to receive support. And so the group is basically an opportunity for them to talk about what's happening in your life as a caregiver right now. How are you getting self-care? What are you doing for yourself? Because so often caregivers burn out because they're so good about giving, not so good about receiving care. So our goal as in the support groups is to help our caregivers find ways to take care of themselves.
So can you give me some examples of what that might look like?
Well, coming to the group
Okay.
for a starter. And then we also offer a class twice a year called Powerful Tools for Caregivers. I've got that on a sheet here, and it's a 6-week series. So we meet for an hour and a half for 6 weeks. This year it's going to be, or this fall, it's going to be October 12th to November 16th every Thursday.
Okay.
And that's an hour and a half session, 1 to 2:30. And we meet, that one's here at Vine.
Okay.
And we always try to fill it up with 10 to 12 people, which
Okay.
we've been able to do for the last 3 years, I guess, we've been offering this class.
Okay.
And that just addresses topics like communication, signs and sources of caregiver stress, dealing with anger, guilt, depression, because all of those are some of the topics that caregivers deal with on a regular basis.
Okay.
And you know, a lot of people think, well, my spouse doesn't have dementia, so I don't think I'm a caregiver. You know, it could be somebody who is recovering from a stroke, could be somebody with Parkinson's, just something that is requiring attention a lot of the day. So we want to give encouragement, and a part of our mission, really central to our mission, is caregiving.
Okay.
And again, there are a number of us who do coaching.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing we do is individual coaching. So let's say somebody from Good Thunder can't make it to the 6-week series, but would like to meet with one of our coaches periodically. They just have to call us. We can come to their home, or they can come here, whichever works best for them. So again, it's several things besides the support groups. It's also those coaching sessions. It's also the powerful tools. And then we also have a memory cafe. A memory cafe is a once a month gathering for people with dementia, Alzheimer's or other related dementia. And we gather for an hour with the caregivers So it's just a fun exchange time for talking, and what you know when you come is that you're not the only one, because these are all people who have dementia and their caregivers. So everybody's understanding. It's not like, this is embarrassing because my spouse does this or that or another thing. Everybody's like, hey, we get it.
Yeah.
So that's a once a month event that we do. We're having a caregiver renewal day this fall towards the end of November. We try to do this once a year and just provide the caregivers with about a 2-hour block of time where they are just gathering together for some self-care. And in the past we've had a presentation. This year we're going to do something a little bit more experiential. It's not quite set yet, but I think it's going to be fun for folks to just come together and have that renewal time. So those are some of the things we do for caregivers.
All right. Some of that reminds me of, in a good way, counseling sessions. Is it similar to that?
I would say the coaching is probably, yes, more geared toward offering suggestions, specific suggestions based on, if I'm meeting one-on-one with somebody, it might be easier to provide specifics than if I'm meeting in a group.
Oh, sure.
So yeah, it would be, we don't call it counseling, but it's more of, what do you need right now and how can we help? And if we can't help, we will find the people who can and research what they need.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I know you're a sister, right?
I
Which
am.
means you're a nun.
I'm a school
Right.
sister of Notre Dame.
Right.
Yes.
And so I know when Pam first started Vine,
Yes.
there was scripture on it, there was different things, and it was in some ways, it seemed like it was more overtly Christian or religious. Has that changed? Like in these sessions, are you able to bring in the religious aspect?
We are all about our faith. Faith is about the faith in humanity. We talk to people of any faith or no faith. And it was found, you're right, it was founded as during the national caregiver movement known as Faith in Action. But that has really evolved over the years. And so we tell our volunteers, we're not about proselytizing. We are all about assisting people in need and helping people remain healthy and active and independent in their homes as long as possible.
Yep, sure.
And the facility here provides all kinds of educational programs and exercise opportunities and social events to help people do that. So I would say we had very strong ties with faith-based community in our beginnings, but we've really branched out.
Sure.
And like I said, it's more about faith in humanity and the power of human kindness.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you allowed to pray for people? Is that a thing that...
It's a good question. Yes, absolutely. When I'm with people and if they ask me if I would pray for them, absolutely I do. Lots of people know me as a sister, and lots of people remember me also as a hospice chaplain, which I was prior to coming here to Vine. So if people ask me for that and want that kind of support, absolutely I do.
Now, for the caregiver groups, is there a cost to that?
The caregiver groups, we ask for donations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The cost for our Powerful Tools course, the whole 6 weeks, is $30.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and that includes a handbook too.
Okay. Yep.
Self-care.
So if somebody can't afford the caregiver group, but they want to come, is that a barrier?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. And we tell them that.
Okay.
That while we would appreciate donations, we do service regardless.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
and do any of you and how many of you are there that lead these groups?
There are 3 coaches.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And two of my coworkers facilitate the Wednesday, 2nd and 4th time of the month, second and fourth Wednesdays a month. Two of them do it together. And starting, and then I do the Wednesday afternoon one, 5:15 alone. And the Mapleton group I also do alone. And then the one in Le Sueur, we'll be rotating it. So that the same person doesn't have to travel each month. So
I'm a certified mental health coach. So I'm not technically a counselor.
Yes.
Are any of you like certified or have any type of credentials like that?
Two of my coworkers are licensed social workers.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
And my degree is in pastoral ministry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have a master's in pastoral ministry.
Okay. Yep.
Yes.
Nice.
So, as you know, I've served the tri-parish community of Good Thunder, Vernon, and Mapleton prior to my coming to Mankato, and wonderful, wonderful memories of the service that I did in the parishes and in the community.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't mind, I don't even know if this is going to make it into the article itself, but I would love to know more about you, about how you got the call from the Lord, and then just kind of go through some of yours. So let's go back to when you're a little girl.
Yeah.
What did your faith look like back then?
Oh my. Well, I was taught by the School Sisters of Notre Dame through grade school and through high school.
Here in Mankato?
No, Cresco, Iowa.
Okay.
Was my hometown.
Okay.
And so my first connection with sisters was as my teachers. Yeah. And I mean, in the days when I grew up, there were it was almost all sisters that taught us. And I took piano lessons from the sisters.
Yeah.
So I always tell people my calling to be a sister kind of started on the piano bench.
Oh, wow.
Because I went to the sisters' home, and every Saturday had my piano lesson. Absolutely loved my piano teacher. She's still alive today. Yep, she's in her 80s.
Wow.
And just a little aside, my mom died a year ago in October.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and dear Therese Marie, my piano teacher, was able to come and play the piano for Mom's funeral.
That's amazing.
Isn't that something? Yeah. So I have, that's kind of how I got a call.
Okay.
Of course, it didn't always, from then on, I didn't always think that's what I was going to do.
Yeah.
But my mom and dad were extremely encouraging, but not pushy about it. You know, I remember Dad saying, hey, if you want to try this, it's fine. If you don't like it, come back home. So that's the kind of the attitude, or it was very freeing, a very freeing call for me. And I've been a sister now for 50 years. Yes,
That's great.
I celebrated my golden jubilee last summer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
That's
yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
So how old were you when I don't want to give away your age or anything, but how old were you when you actually, and is there a minimum age you have to be to become a sister?
Now you have to be a college graduate.
Oh.
When I took my final vows, I was 23 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, or my first vows, as we call them.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what's the difference in the vows, and what's the first one called? Second, what's that process?
The second one is called, or the first vow is called profession.
Okay.
And it's after we take our first vows, we have some time before we take our final vows or perpetual vows.
Okay.
So I took my first vows at age 23, and my perpetual vows, or my final vows, at when I was 29.
Oh, there's that many years between, and is that usual?
You can.
Okay.
No, you don't have to. No.
And,
I think it has to be 3 years between.
Okay.
But for me, I just took more time and had more experiences and lived with more sisters and got to know individuals, and so it was good for me to have that kind of timeline.
So after your first vows, your initial vows, are you considered a sister at that point? Okay.
Yes. We're actually called sisters by when we become a novice.
Oh, a novice.
Uh-huh.
And what's that look like? So that's before your first vows?
Correct.
Okay, and what does that period
Novice
look like?
is it's at least a year. Now it's a year. We had 2 years when I was going through the training to be a sister, and it's really focused on the vowed life, getting to know the vows, and also community life. And so it's more intense. It's more, what would I say besides intense? A lot of education about our 3 vows and what they mean and what it entails in terms of living the vowed life. Yeah.
So is it like an immersion?
Immersion.
Kind of.
That's a great. Yeah.
And so, are you living then in a convent? Are you living with this other sisters in some capacity at that point?
Yes, I'm living with another sister, and we live in an apartment.
Okay.
And most of the sisters, I should say, most of the sisters now staying in Mankato will be living in apartments because Good Counsel is no longer available.
So how many sisters that are from Good Counsel are now still going to stay in Mankato?
I think there's 12 of us.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. So you were talking about your service with the Tri-Parish in Good Thunder and Amboy and Mapleton?
Vernon Center and Good Thunder and Mapleton.
And so as a nun, what did those duties look like when you were serving those churches?
Yeah. Oh gosh, it was meeting people, especially people who needed visits because of something they were going through in their lives or an illness. It was being with people at the time of death. It was getting to know the youth in the area and helping them just be excited about their faith. And I lived with another sister at that time who was the administrator of the parishes. And then we just had, I shouldn't say just, we had a priest come in for the weekend liturgies who didn't live in the area. Yep. So we did most of the ministry. The sisters did.
Okay. Now I assume that has probably changed over the years where priest might have done this.
Yes.
Sisters didn't do that, but now the sisters are doing more, or what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, the sisters are doing what we can in terms of being able to be there as ministers and as just friends to the people that live in our communities of whatever parish we're with. And many sisters are, I would say the primary role is to be available in whatever folks need at the time. I loved the work with people in the Tri-Parish. I love rural communities. And my work as a chaplain made a difference too in how I could support people in their needs.
So what did your life look like when you were at the School Sisters of Notre Dame, the facility up on Good Counsel? What did your life look like during those years, and how many years was that where you were actually up there?
Gosh. It would have been, our first year is called postulant, Postulant, and then novice, and then we're called temporary professed. So that's that profession that I talked about earlier. That's not the final vows, but and oh my gosh, it looked like a lot of things. We were studying. Okay. A big part of it was study. I also attended classes at Minnesota State University for my degree in math, and I was taking some courses in music as well. And so a lot of our time, excuse me, was study and learning the ropes, learning what it's going to be like to be a sister. Yeah. But the Hill will always be home. It'll always be home to us sisters. Even though things are changing. That was a facility like no other, and the grounds. I mean, just beautiful, beautiful grounds, and all of our services in terms of mass and jubilee times and our profession times all were in the chapel. of Our Lady of Good Counsel, which if you've been there, I don't have to tell you, it's just gorgeous. We were the ones, by the way, when we were novices, that helped with the pipe organ to clean the pipes when they came from Boston. Yeah. So we were outside cleaning pipes for a long time. And that organ is the Johnson organ, and it's the best organ. So they were beautiful times, really. I have dear friends to this day who were part of that experience with me. Yeah.
So I got to look around a bit, and I saw that there was a basketball court down below the chapel.
Below the chapel. Now, that is a classic.
Now, did you play basketball there?
Oh, we played basketball and volleyball and tennis.
What's that?
Tennis is a ring about this wide, or this large, and you toss it over the net, just like a volleyball, but it's called a tennis.
Now, I have to ask you, did you ever wear your habit when we were playing basketball?
No.
Okay.
No, not really. We did wear shorts, but kind of like we would say today, in those days we called them culottes.
Okay.
But they're not culottes anymore.
So was that all that facility built for sisters?
Yes.
Okay, so it wasn't built for a school at first, because I know.
Well, yes, for those who were studying to be sisters.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so the Loyola part of the hill is a separate. That was a Catholic school.
Yes. It started out as a all girls school.
Okay.
Yes.
And then did the girls ever come over to the chapel, or how often would they come to your chapel?
In the days when I was there, we rarely got over, if ever, to the chapel. Rarely. Maybe one of the sisters might take us over and show us the chapel.
Okay.
But now, or in recent years, I should say, Loyola students have used the chapel.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
For certain masses and other choirs and so on. And, it's our hope that that'll continue for them in terms of, not mass, because they have their own chapel, but for concerts, and that'll be available too for Minnesota Orchestra and Mankato State, other groups that want to use the chapel. And I think it's going to be a nonprofit.
Okay.
And so, and then any money that's raised for the chapel will be used for maintenance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I know that was your home for a long time, many years. How are you and how are the other sisters dealing with that's not going to be part of your lives anymore?
Right. Certainly not the way it has been. I would say it's loss. It's a deep loss. But as we know, and as I know from working at Vine specifically, everybody goes through it. Everybody has to move eventually from their homes. And it's not easy. But I'm so inspired by our sisters who have moved up to Shakopee, to the Benedictine living community, and how they have really managed, and not only managed, but have come to know the lay people who live with them, who are just experiencing new things with folks, men and women, who are living there with them. And it's a beautiful facility. We were very fortunate insofar as when we were looking for a facility. Benedictine was also looking because it was built before COVID, and then people were not coming to the facility, and so it was a good match. It was a very good match, and all of the sisters who needed care could go to Shakopee. So as hard as it was to leave home, we know that I think God knew what we needed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, back to the Vine part of your life now.
Yes.
So when we think of nuns normally, we think of sisters, we think they do church work, or, they don't, like Paul was a tent maker on the side, Apostle Paul. But so has that always been a thing where sisters do things like Vine or different things that's not technically a part of the Catholic Church?
Yeah, good question. I think in years past, most of the sisters were teachers in Catholic schools.
Right.
Yeah. And it hasn't been the usual thing to work outside of church ministry, but that isn't to say that other sisters aren't currently doing it.
Sure.
I was just so drawn to the mission of Vine 8 years ago, and just talked to my community about, hey, I'd like to get involved in this. It's an awesome mission, and got full support from my community. And just an FYI, Tim, most people don't know it, but there's a difference between nuns and sisters.
Oh, okay.
Right. We are sisters, technically.
Okay.
Nuns would be people who are more cloistered or living in a situation just for prayer, not just for prayer, and in a monastery, so to speak.
Okay.
But our work as School Sisters of Notre Dame and other sisters like us is to be out there, out there with the people.
Interesting.
Doing work that is helpful, but doesn't keep us in one spot, in one monastery.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
I had no idea.
And many people don't, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of my coworkers, when I first came, started calling me, "You're a nun," and then I would make the distinction, but so it's not a big deal. But
So,
I prefer sister just because I love that term.
Yes.
Sister.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't think the brothers thing is equal with priests. I'm not sure that you normally would call them that. But so when you did sisters wear the same habits, for instance, have the same type of garments originally, or up until recently, I guess?
When I entered the community, we were already in transition with habits.
Gotcha.
At that point in time, we were wearing a veil where our hair showed.
Okay.
It was a short veil, and we were wearing navy blue or black dresses.
Okay.
Not long habits, as we called them.
Okay. Yep.
As sisters called them. And today, there are sisters in Mankato who wear habits.
Yep.
And nobody, it's choice. It's a choice.
Yep.
We have sisters in other parts of the country because we are, by the way, School Sisters of Notre Dame are an international congregation. So we're all over the world. And so some of the sisters do wear habits and others of us don't.
Okay.
So
were the habits the same for nuns as sisters?
Pretty much.
Okay, so you couldn't tell a difference.
No.
There wasn't a garment
really.
or something on the.
Not really.
Okay,
No.
interesting.
Yeah, which made it a little bit more tricky to distinguish, but it wasn't a big deal.
So I remember one of the first times I went to the Hill, saw the garden you guys had, which was beautiful, gorgeous, and I saw a sister, I assume, in the full everything. Okay. And it was 90 something.
Oh.
And I can't even imagine. And she was hoeing away. I mean, she was working, but she had the full garments on. So is that?
That's rare.
Okay.
Yeah, very rare.
But so it would have been back in 1988. I don't know if it was more common back then.
Boy, perhaps. But I mean, with some sisters, I think they remained in habit. In fact, some of the sisters up at Benedictine, a couple of sisters continued to wear the habit there. And it's really a personal choice. Yeah.
I know one thing. I went to an event the other day and I had my shirt on that identified me as the Jesus food guy.
Oh, sure.
The questions you get, the comments you get. And I wonder how much of that is I don't want to say it's a missed opportunity or mistake. I don't believe that. But it's because I imagine if you wore the outfit, so to speak, that you would get a lot more comments. You go, can I pray for you, or can you pray for me? Or I assume that's not the same when you don't wear the.
It's a good question, and it's not the first thing I tell people obviously.
Yeah.
I'm there to serve their needs.
Sure.
And not say, hey, I'm Sister Joyce, and
Right.
no, it's if it comes up in conversation because
Sure.
they've heard about it, or then we'll talk about it. But
Sure.
the reality is too that there are some people who don't have any experience of sisters, and I certainly don't want my work at Vine to impact
Sure.
whether they want me to come or not.
Yep.
To visit them because of any religious barriers. That's not what it's about.
Right.
It's really about service.
Yep.
Yeah.
And is there a functional difference between a sister and a nun versus what a sister or a nun can or can't do? Or is a nun considered a higher level sister? I mean,
No, not at all.
Okay.
No.
So functionally, there's nothing different about what one can do versus the other can do.
Well, I would say that again, most school sisters of Notre Dame, and many of the sisters I know work. How do I say it?
Out in the field.
Out in the field. Yeah, out in the field. I never felt called to be a monastic sister, where I would be, called to prayer a lot of the day.
Yep.
But I'm grateful that there are sisters who do that,
Yep.
and who find great meaning and life in a lot of prayer. We sisters pray, and we pray with each other. We pray we go to mass whenever possible. I'm a pianist, so I love my work. I work at St. John the Baptist as a pianist on the weekends whenever I can.
Yeah.
I've also been involved in Good Thunder and Mapleton and Vernon over the years.
Wow. Did you ever get to play or sing with Father Tim back when he was?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love that guy.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yes, I have.
Yeah, I guess he loved the acoustics of the Good Thunder Chapel. There was something when you play.
Oh sure.
There was something about the acoustics there that I thought that was fun.
Yeah, no, they've had some wonderful pastors over the years, and I've really appreciated retaining friendships with folks.
I was surprised when I was in Good Thunder once, and I saw either a sister or a nun, and she had the full, and this was less than a couple of years ago.
Oh sure.
She was young. She was looked like she was in her 20s or 30s.
The sisters at St. Peter and Paul's.
Oh, okay.
Wear full habit.
Okay.
And wonderful women. So, yeah, they're very present in the community.
Yeah.
Good.
And everybody, when she was walking towards the church, everybody was like, "Oh, and came and hugged her and stuff." But I just think it's so neat to me because it identifies that person as this is who I am. It's like a priest wearing his collar, a priest wearing his, and I love, I guess, certain things about regalia, I guess, but there are these coats that the priests wear that are kind of full.
Yes.
They just look so cool. I mean, and I saw a movie, Alfred Hitchcock movie it was about a priest who was accused of a murder, which he ended up not, obviously didn't do, but he had that same, what looked like the exact same garment on.
Oh, really?
So that was from 19 whatever that was, and to have, it's just neat that's even a thing, but
sure.
They look cool. So it's
and people, in years past, it was ordinary, common, ordinary.
Yep.
So today it's kind of like, wow.
It is, yeah.
Who are you and what do you do?
So were you, I'm sure you know this, the Holy Spirit Retreat Center that was in Janesville, right? That obviously is gone now as far as the Catholic relationship is.
Buddhist.
So did you ever work out there or know any of the sisters? Or were those nuns?
Oh yeah,
Those
are sisters. Those are Franciscan sisters from Rochester who owned and managed that. Yes. And I really enjoy. We at Vine we've had. I'm not going to think of his name right offhand, but the Buddhist monk who is the primary.
Oh, okay.
We've had him here at Vine.
Oh, okay.
To speak about mindfulness, and he's given some talks. He's given some just classes about mindfulness meditation.
Sure.
and it's been excellent. Excellent. So
anything else you want to say about the program or about Vine or
just encourage people. Oh, we have a 55 plus expo coming up,
okay,
and that's in September. Let me look at the date. September 19th, 1 to 4. It's at the Civic Center.
okay,
Just encourage whoever can come to that to learn more about Vine, and there will be vendors and collect goodies, play games, socialize. So we had it here last year.
oh,
But we had so many people that we've asked to host it at the
that's
Civic
great.
Center. And to go online, find our newsletter,
Okay,
and feel welcome to anything that we offer.
sure.
If anybody has any particular questions about the caregiver support, my number is here on my card, and I would love to talk to people about it.
And do you have a website that people can
We
go
do, www.vinevolunteers.org.
to? Okay, vinevolunteers.org.
That's it.
All right.
And we're always looking for more volunteers.
Okay, and do you have a Facebook page?
We do.
You do?
Yep, we
Okay.
do. Yep.
Instagram, all that fun stuff?
I think we do.
Twitter?
I don't go on Instagram, but I think so. But I know we have Facebook.
Okay, so the website would probably have all those links, I assume,
Oh,
to
yeah,
any social
definitely.
media and stuff? Okay.
Definitely.
Well, that's
Yeah.
great. So you're looking for volunteers. Is Vine also hiring right now?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And that's on our website.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Great.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Okay.
Can you offer us a prayer? Would that be okay?
I can offer us a prayer.
I would love that.
Okay. All right, loving God. Thank you. Thank you for this time with Tim. Thank you for the good work he does. Not only through the Maple Messenger, but also through his work with Jesus Food. Continue to bless those efforts. Bless our families, our friends, our communities where we live and work and find meaning. And just thank you for this time. Amen.
Amen. Is it okay if